Welcome back, Nation of Glory. Today, we bring you a story wrapped in determination, transformation, heart, and courage. A story that begins not with spotlights or championships, but with a young woman who dared to dream in a world where not many doors were open for her at the time. A woman known to wrestling fans across the world as Velvet Sky, but born Jamie Lynn Szantyr, someone who never entered a ring simply to perform, but to live, to fight, to feel alive, and to inspire. Her journey is not just about wrestling. It is about identity. It is about standing tall in a world that sometimes tries to break you, and still finding a way to rise. It is about the roar of arenas, the sting of sacrifices, the fire of passion, and the gentle strength that comes from reinventing your life when the stage lights fade and a new dawn calls your name. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a small town girl with a big dream. No roadmap, no assurances, just a heart pounding to the rhythm of ambition, a soul refusing to accept ordinary, and a belief that she belongs somewhere bigger than the horizon in front of her. That was Jamie. She didn't dream small, she dreamed with full force, with the kind of hunger that the world always remembers. Wrestling wasn't just entertainment to her. It was a calling. A world where she could be powerful, fierce, unstoppable. A world where she could show that beauty doesn't weaken a fighter, it can stand alongside grit, toughness, and fire. But before she became Velvet Sky, before the entrances, the music, the cameras and crowds, she was a hard-working dreamer grinding her way through the independent wrestling circuit. Not glamorous, not luxurious, just pure grit. Late-night drives after long shows. Aches in every bone. Crowds of 20, sometimes 50, cheering or booing, but always watching. That is where a wrestler is truly built. Not in the bright lights of television, but in the sweat and silence of small rooms where passion is the only currency and heart is the only requirement. Jamie knew struggle. She knew effort. She knew sacrifice. But she also knew that every time her boots hit the mat, she was exactly where she was meant to be. And then destiny opened its door, as it always does for those who refuse to quit. Total non-stop action wrestling, TNA. A company rising, evolving, and ready to make space for a new wave of stars. A place where the Knockouts division was about to change the perception of women's wrestling forever. And in that moment in time, Jamie Szantyr transformed into Velvet Sky, a name that wouldn't just become famous, but iconic. She didn't walk into TNA quietly, she arrived like a spark ready to ignite. And soon, she would become part of one of the most talked about, influential female factions in modern wrestling history, the Beautiful People. The Beautiful People weren't just characters. They were attitude. They were rebellion. They were confidence and swagger mixed with danger and dominance. Angelina Love and Velvet Sky, a pairing that didn't just entertain fans, but electrified them. They changed the game. They were bold. They were sharp. They were unapologetic. They took control of the spotlight and demanded respect. And even outside the ring, fans saw the chemistry, the charisma, the energy that Velvet brought to every moment. She wasn't trying to be someone else, she embodied Velvet Sky. The walk, the presence, the fearlessness, the vulnerability hidden behind strength. The connection between who she was and who she portrayed blurred in the best way possible. Wrestling fans saw someone who didn't fake passion, she lived it. But behind every iconic persona lies a human being, one that bleeds, doubts, hurts, hopes, and grows. Velvet Sky's journey wasn't only glamorous. It was demanding. It was emotional. Wrestling is a world of travel, exhaustion, pressure, expectations, and physical pain that most people never see. Behind the makeup and spotlight were nights of ice packs, aching joints, mental fatigue, and the weight of being a woman in a sport where the road hasn't always been fair. But Velvet never broke. She bent, she stretched, she adapted, and she rose again. True strength isn't the absence of struggle, it is refusing to surrender to it. Fans remember her matches, intense, emotional, impactful. They remember her title chase, her victories, her heartbreak moments, her triumphant moments. They remember the roar when she finally captured the TNA Knockouts Championship, not just a belt, but validation for years of sweat, dedication, and sacrifice. When her hand was raised, it wasn't only Velvet Sky standing victorious, it was Jamie, the dreamer from Connecticut who refused to be anything less than legendary. And yet, championships are only one type of victory. Velvet Sky won hearts. She inspired young girls who believed strength and beauty could stand hand in hand. She got fans to see women's wrestling not as filler, but as the main event. She proved that talent, charisma, and authenticity could break barriers. She proved that the Knockouts division was not just a part of TNA, it was a cornerstone. A revolution. A new standard for women's wrestling in mainstream promotions. But time moves. Careers shift. Bodies feel years of battle. And every warrior reaches a crossroads. For Velvet, the next chapter wasn't about giving up, it was about growing up. About evolving. About understanding that sometimes the greatest courage lies not in staying inside the ring, but in stepping outside it with grace, dignity, and excitement for what comes next. Retirement isn't an ending, it is simply a new beginning. Jamie Szantyr didn't leave the world she loved behind. She carried it with her. Into commentary, into new experiences, into life beyond the ropes. She became a voice, a storyteller, a mentor-like presence, a commentator who gave insight not from observation, but from experience, from understanding what it feels like to hit the canvas, to hear the crowd, to put your body on the line for the art you love. She transitioned into a role that kept her close to wrestling without requiring her to continue breaking her body. And that, Nation of Glory, is a chapter worth applauding. Because many people cling to the spotlight out of fear, Jamie chose peace, growth, future, balance, and away from the ring lights. She found other passions. She embraced personal life, creative outlets, freedom. She trained, she stayed fit, she stayed motivated. She focused on her mental and emotional health. She lived life not as Velvet Sky the character, but as Jamie Szantyr the woman. And what a beautiful evolution that is. Because the strongest people aren't the ones who shine in the arena, they are the ones who learn to shine in silence too. Now when fans see her, they don't only see the glamorous knockout who electrified TNA and inspired thousands. They see a full human being, confident, grounded, wise, grateful, and empowered. She reminds us that we are not defined only by what we do, but by who we are. That dreams can shift and still remain powerful. That sometimes the most courageous decision isn't walking into the ring, it's knowing when to walk out with your head held high. Her story teaches us that strength comes in many forms. The strength to fight, the strength to perform, the strength to entertain, the strength to endure, and eventually, the strength to evolve. Velvet Sky inspired a generation during her wrestling career, and Jamie Szantyr inspires a generation now by living authentically, peacefully, and proudly. She didn't disappear, she transformed. She didn't quit, she graduated. She didn't fade, she grew brighter in a new way. And that, Nation of Glory, is the beauty of a life lived with passion. When you give your all to one chapter, you earn the right to write the next with freedom. Jamie Szantyr did that. She embodies grace, strength, and reinvention. And no matter where her journey goes from here, one thing is for sure, her legacy is alive, her story is powerful, and her spirit remains unbreakable. So here's to Velvet Sky, the performer who made wrestling fans cheer, boo, feel, believe, and love the art she gave her heart to. And here's to Jamie, the woman who proves life after the spotlight can be just as extraordinary. The battles, the beauty, the evolution, it all matters. It all shines. And it all inspires. Thank you for watching Nation of Glory. If this emotional journey moved you, if it reminded you that evolution is power and reinvention is strength, then do your part. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more legendary wrestling life stories, and share this video with someone who dreams, someone who fights, someone who needs to know that they can rise, change, and shine at every stage of life. Until next time, stay inspired, stay fearless, stay evolving, and keep chasing your own glory. Nation of Glory, signing out.